As the movie begins, we see a nervous-looking man entering a large temple to worship. It is a dark and mysterious place, which looks like it's been deserted for some time. However, there are drum beats coming from somewhere, despite no one being around. Jumanji. As the man looks around in confusion, a titanic god suddenly awakens, revealing that the drum beat was in fact his heartbeat. He is now awoken to unleash hell on humanity. Following this, we are shown a man named Guan, who is frantically searching for his daughter, Tangerine, inside of an ancient mystic cave. The little girl appears to be screaming from the depths of the cave. All of a sudden, a glowing deity materializes in front of Guan, stopping him from moving any further. He jolts awake and realizes it was actually a dream.
Not another cave daughter deity dream.
This is when we find out that Guan's daughter Tangerine was kidnapped 6 years ago and has been missing ever since. As a sorrowful father, he has been obsessed with finding his daughter at any cost. This obsession has led him to sell his house, abandon his career, and even divorce his wife. Sitting alone on the side of a cliff, Guan notices a truck on the road and begins throwing rocks at it with pinpoint accuracy, even changing the trajectory along the way. The rocks break the truck's windshield, causing the vehicle to crash nearby. Guan makes his way down the cliff and attacks the driver, demanding to know where his daughter is. Suddenly, the driver's accomplice hits Guan in the head with a wrench, knocking him down while they escape on foot. Shortly after, Guan gets up and checks the truck, where he finds many children locked up and kept in cages. It is then revealed that he somehow found out about the traffickers and ambushed their vehicle in hopes of saving his daughter. However, disappointment hits Guan when he doesn't find his daughter inside. Soon, the cops arrive and arrest Guan, assuming that he is the trafficker. He falls asleep in the back of the cop car and dreams of Tangerine again, but this time he sees her entangled in black, slimy vines.
Oh, I thought this movie was set in China, not Japan.
Upon waking up a while later, he notices the cop has taken the picture of his daughter out of his pockets. This enrages Guan so much that he breaks free and forcefully snatches the picture before escaping. Strangely enough, he finds another car on the road waiting for him. Due to the dire circumstances, Guan doesn't think twice and gets inside the car. The driver is a lady named Ling, who happens to know everything about Guan's life, including his daughter's disappearance. She then convinces him to stay, claiming that she can help him find his daughter. The movie cuts back to the ancient setting where we see a warrior named Kong running away from attackers led by an old man. Kong eventually finds himself surrounded on the edge of a cliff, but just as the tension reaches its peak, his sister comes to the rescue. She defends Kong and instructs him to go west before pushing him off the cliff for his own safety. After that, we see her fight off the remaining goons, all on her own. Scared for his sister's life, Kong climbs back up the cliff only to find that she has been killed by the old man. The latter is also impaled through the chest, and so Kong takes the spear out, intending to kill him. The old man warns Kong that if he kills him, he will never be able to run from someone named Lord Redmane. Nevertheless, Kong kills the old man and avenges his sister. After the chaos finally ends, Kong is heartbroken and tired of always running from his enemies. Hence, he decides to return to the city and kill his biggest enemy, Lord Redmane. All of a sudden, the old man's armor starts moving. It is in need of a new host, and so it instantly attaches itself to Kong. As it turns out, the armor has its own will, and it wants to be a part of Kong's mission to kill Lord Redmane. It fully embeds itself in his body, and an eyeball appears on Kong's chest as an indication. Meanwhile, Ling takes Guan into the building where she works and proceeds to show him pictures of 5 girl toddlers. She asks him if he recognizes his daughter, but unfortunately, Guan is unable to do so, as it has been a very long time since he last saw her. Ling then states that they can use a DNA test to find out which one is his daughter, but in exchange, Guan has to be of service to her company. Ling reveals that they know about his power to control projectiles and want to see him use it to kill a novel writer named Kong. She then shows and explains Kong's daily live streams, in which he narrates stories written by himself. The peculiar thing is that whenever one of the novel's characters named Lord Redmane gets wounded in the story, Ling's company boss Li Mu gets hurt in real life. The company has tried every possible legal strategy to make Kong stop writing the story, but to no avail. Guan finds the story hard to believe, but he has no choice but to accept the offer, as it is his only way of locating his daughter, Tangerine. So, the next day, Guan gets himself a fresh new haircut. Hell yeah, Guan. And travels to the small town where Kong lives. On his way there, he discovers that the things he frequently dreams about about are related to Kong's stories, as he listens to them on his audiobook. Guan follows Kong all day, waiting for the opportune moment to kill him, and eventually ends up inside a library. However, he fails to blend in as there is no one else in the library besides Kong and him. That didn't stop Keanu Reeves from killing a basketball player in John Wick 3. Suddenly, the writer confronts Guan and asks why he has been following him all day, to which the latter responds by pretending to be a fan of his novels. Hearing this, Kong becomes ecstatic and asks Guan a lot of questions. But before our protagonist can answer them, he gets a call from Ling, prompting him to move to the side and pick it up. She orders him not to talk with the target and execute him immediately. However, Guan doesn't listen to her and continues to follow Kong outside. The two engage in a conversation again and are almost hit by a car from Ling's company. Guan flees the scene, but he accidentally leaves his dream journal behind. When Kong goes through it, he is immediately struck with inspiration for a new plot in his most recent book. The movie then cuts back to the fictional world, where Kong travels to the city where people are celebrating a festival. The venue for the ceremony has a massive statue of Lord Redmayne, revealing that he is the one being celebrated. Kong is baffled at the number of people when suddenly the statue points its arm towards the neighboring village, and they all run towards it with their weapons. The alive armor explains to a confused Kong that Lord Redmayne is responsible for the destruction of many villages, as he has been manipulating all of his followers to start a war. The neighboring villages also arm themselves for defense, but their attempt is futile as 3 huge fire dragons appear from the sky and dump flammable liquid all over their base. Afterward, the ground troops sent fire arrows towards the village, resulting in the entire base going up in flames, making them lose the war. A while later, the village is seen to be in ruins, and as the sun rises, a battle horn is heard, prompting several knights in crimson red to arrive on horses. Kong also notices the flag and deduces that the knights are Redmayne's disciples. The remaining villagers cower in fear, while the knights set up a curfew in order. The movie cuts back to the real world, where Guan wakes up inside a hotel room and finds Ling sitting beside him. She punishes him for his absence of mind, as he didn't do what he was supposed to. Shortly after, Kong arrives outside the hotel and hands Guan the journal back. He also thanks him for the inspiration he needed to continue his novel. In the next scene, Guan takes Kong for a walk, intending to lure him to a secure place so that he can get the job done. They make their way to an abandoned field while Kong talks about how he got into storytelling and writing. It's then revealed that he had started writing exactly 6 years ago, strangely being the same time when Guan had lost his daughter, Tangerine. Kong then hears a sweet melody in the distance and jots down some notes so that he can add to the story. In the fictional world, Kong finds a little girl on the streets trying to revive her dead brother. She is revealed to be none other than Tangerine. Feeling pity, he consoles her and then buries the boy. As the two start chatting, Tangerine reveals that the Crimson Knights will try to kill anyone who leaves their home after sunset. Then she starts to play the flute, which replicates the same tune the novel writer Kong had heard in the real world. This sound attracts the attention of a knight, who hunts them down as it is already sunset. Kong eventually decides to swap the girl with a decoy to give her a chance to escape while he stalls the knight. After a while, the knight finally catches up to him and falls for the decoy. As he is left stunned, Kong takes advantage of the distraction and manages to strike his head armor. The resulting cut in the armor shockingly reveals Guan's face, and he gets ready to kill Kong. But just as he is about to proceed, the little girl shows up and distracts the knight, prompting him to run towards her. However, this time, the knight malfunctions for some reason, allowing Kong and Tangerine to escape. Back to reality, Kong writes all of this down while Guan approaches him from behind. He has visions of himself chasing down Kong and Tangerine in a fictional world similar to what he just wrote in his novel. He proceeds to hurl rocks towards Kong, and one of them lands a fatal blow, knocking him out and sending him into the trenches. Guan approaches Kong and prepares to land the final blow, whilst singing the lullaby he had made for Tangerine, possibly trying to justify his actions. But right then, Guan hears someone singing the lullaby and immediately stops to follow the sound. He finds a little boy in the middle of the road singing the lullaby. Then, an emotional Guan grabs the boy, demanding to know how he learned it. The terrified boy flees the scene, and Guan chases after him as he again has visions of him in the fictional world, chasing Kong and Tangerine from the view of the Crimson Knight. The boy manages to escape while Guan ends up at a small party. To his shock, he spots Tangerine's kidnapper, along with some of his friends, and a fight ensues. Guan uses his powers to defeat the enemies and interrogates the kidnapper. Scared, the latter finally tells him the truth about his daughter. It is revealed that 6 years ago, when Tangerine was kidnapped, she was accidentally drugged with a dosage higher than the minimum amount, which eventually led to her death. So, the kidnapper put her in a sack and left her on a mountain to rot. Overwhelmed with pain and grief, Guan tries to strangle the goon to death, but Ling shows up in the nick of time and stops him. She then knocks him out and carries him to her car. When Guan wakes up, he immediately starts explaining what the kidnapper said about Tangerine. Meanwhile, Li Mu talks to Ling via an earpiece and instructs her to convince Guan that his daughter is alive. So, she tells Guan that the police are taking the kidnapper to jail, where he will be properly punished. However, Guan begs her to let him have the kidnapper after he kills Kong, before leaving to plan his next line of approach. Shortly after, Li Mu confronts Ling and scolds her for feeling sorry for Guan and not being able to fully convince him. He then confirms that the kidnapper is right, but in order to manipulate Guan, they have to use his dead daughter as leverage. In the fictional world, Kong and Tangerine escape the wrath of the night and come to the city, only to witness the horrible things people are going through because of the war. The two make it to Tangerine's home, and it turns out that her parents had died a while back for disobeying the curfew. As they converse, they are interrupted by a group of Redmayne followers, who rummage through Tangerine's home before laying their eyes on the two, intending to kill them. Kong immediately steps up to protect the little girl from the attackers, which his live armor finds interesting. In the real world, Kong meets with Guan on the rooftop of a building, unaware that he was attacked by the same man earlier. As he explains his novel, Guan finds out that Kong has put him in his story as the character of the Crimson Knight, hence matching the knight's head injury with Guan's when he was fighting the kidnappers. Shocked, Guan snatches the notebook and goes through it, only to learn that the visions he had been having also matched the story Kong has written. What shocks him the most is that his daughter Tangerine has been made a character as well. This means that Kong has created a parallel universe through his novels, and that the content he writes affects the real people on whom the characters are based. Kong explains that the last chapter has himself and Tangerine surrounded by the angry mob, but he doesn't know how to defeat them. So, Guan comes up with an idea that they should win the fight. The movie then cuts back to the parallel universe, where Kong is about to fight Redmayne's followers. All of a sudden, the armor attached to Kong exits his body and becomes an entity that can conjure weapons on command. The armor plows through the angry mob, while Kong also joins in on the fight. Afterward, he learns that he has full control over the armor because it has way too much of his blood. Kong then stabs the armor in its chest to teach him that he is in charge, making the object promise to never disobey him again. On Earth, Guan calls Ling and tells her that he has now decided to protect Kong. This is because he wants to save his daughter in the novel. The two men then make it back to Kong's room, where it is revealed that his dad and Li Mu were once business partners before the former died in a tragic accident. Surprisingly, Ling is also eavesdropping on their conversation. She has now come to the conclusion that Li Mu killed Kong's dad and wants to cover up the story by killing him as well. Enraged, Ling calls Li Mu, demanding to know the truth, but he confesses nothing and hangs up. As a tired Ling returns to her car, she is electrocuted by Li Mu's henchmen and placed in the back. Meanwhile, Guan and Kong head over to the library, where the latter continues to write his novel, while Guan prepares for any enemy forces coming his way. In the parallel universe, Kong and Tangerine make it to Redmayne's palace, where they find thousands of immobile Crimson Knights sitting on the floor. Kong then learns that the Knights only move during the day, and that Redmayne had introduced the curfew law so that the public couldn't find out about this. At the same time, Li Mu's goons arrive at the library, and Guan engages in a fight with them. He uses his powers to defend himself, but an attacker splashes water on him and uses his electrical prowess, forcing Guan to hide in a corner. A while later, Guan thinks of a plan and uses a rubber glove to kill the attacker. He confronts the goon who has superhuman strength, but is hardly able to overpower him. Fortunately, Ling wakes up and breaks free of the car, arriving just in time to prevent the attacker from killing Guan. The two then work together and kill the last man. In the parallel universe, Tangerine and Kong finally reach a room where they meet Lord Redmayne, who turns out to be a massive, four-armed beast. It's then revealed that Kong is actually the son of Redmayne's brother, whom he had killed a long time ago. This matches directly with reality, as Kong's father was Li Mu's best friend and had died in an accident. The fictional Kong is furious after finding out that Redmayne killed his father, and so he challenges him to a duel. They go outside, where Redmayne shows Kong the tree in which his father was buried underneath. Their fight begins, and the live armor separates from from Kong's body, ready to give his best. However, the two barely do any damage to the powerful Redmayne. The latter manages to grab the armor and crush it with his bare hands, turning it into dust. Just as Redmayne is about to kill a wounded Kong, he is distracted by Tangerine, who plays the lullaby on her flute. She does so because her father had taught her to sing the song whenever she is in trouble, and that he will come to her aid. Redmayne, however, grows frustrated with the tune and captures Tangerine, placing her inside his belly. Back on Earth, it appears as if a third henchman has broken in and stabbed Kong without anyone knowing. Guan and Ling find him shortly after and take down the goon before rushing him to the hospital. Later, Guan stares at Kong's laptop screen, wondering what to do with the novel. He is shocked when Li Mu suddenly enters the room and explains that he had originally intended for Kong and Guan to die together, making it seem like they had killed each other. It was a perfect plan, because the police would have read Kong's novel, which has Tangerine's name on it, making it seem like he was the kidnapper, while Guan was a father who wanted revenge. In the final showdown between the two, Li Mu demands Kong's computer, but Guan refuses to hand it over. The latter then explains that he can complete the story. The movie once again cuts to the parallel universe, where the Crimson Knight appears out of nowhere with a machine gun in hand and attacks Redmayne, intending to save his daughter. The gun finally does some damage to the monster, while Kong leaps towards Redmayne and holds onto a sword stuck to his forehead, assuming that it is his weakness. Kong tries to pull the sword out, while the Crimson Knight grabs it and drags it down Redmayne's body. The plan is successful, and the giant monster is finally killed. As a result, Tangerine is freed from his stomach, and the father and daughter finally get to meet in this universe. In the meantime, Ling finishes reading what Guan had written, while Li Mu slowly withers away as Redmayne dies in the other universe. In the final scene, Guan hears the lullaby again, and rushes outside the hospital where he sees the young boy from earlier. Only now, he is with a little girl, none other than Tangerine. The movie ends as the Crimson Knight hugs Tangerine ever so tightly. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.